This is Avi for The Art of Nothing, and in this video we're going to be exploring the quote-unquote rules of improv comedy. I'm going to go ahead and start us off with a quote. I think I'm going to do this in every video now. I want to start off just putting in a quote at the beginning of the video just to kind of give us a foundation to work off of. Plus, I really love quotes. Like, if I find a good quote, I always jot it down in my notebook, or I always put it in my journal or write it down somewhere so I don't forget. Because this stuff is hard. And, you know, when it comes to enlightenment work or improv work, personal development work, you know, these things are very difficult and they're hard concepts to understand. So every time I find a really good juicy quote, I like to, you know, pop it in somewhere and and have it be reminded for me, if that makes any sense. So here we go. Quote, and I'm going to be reading this. "It's not wise to violate rules until you know how to observe them." Unquote. And this is by T.S. Eliot. And that's a really good starting point for us because technically in improv comedy, there are no rules. And, you know, people will say there are rules. And they'll give you techniques and exercises to do, and that's good. But you know, we have to start somewhere. We have to start somewhere in order to structure it for the beginner, for the novice, and even for the intermediates. You know, and as we work with more advanced concept, we kind of have to. It's tricky. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. We have to put rules in place. And then we have to tell you that there are no rules. And it's tricky because a lot of the times in improv, we'll be doing something that we think is right. And then we get notes on it later that say, oh, by the way, that thing you did was wrong. And that's happened to me like millions and millions of times, you know. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to have it structured so that the topics or the main points that I'm going to be dishing out to you are not rules, but more guidelines to follow. And just keep in the back of your mind this notion of there are no rules in improv. Like, technically speaking, there are no rules. You can do whatever you want, right? And it's both freeing and a little, and it chains you at the same time. And I'll talk more about why it's freeing and why it chains you a little bit later in the video. In regards to having no rules, right? I'll talk about that in a little bit later. But for now, I want to give three main kind of guidelines to help you understand rules in improv comedy and how you can use these guidelines to hopefully improve your work and your improv skills. And some of these I've derived from personal development books, improv books, and I've kind of wrapped some of these concepts into one because I see a lot of similarities, and I think it's very helpful for us to understand some of these concepts and in an improv context. So just know, you know, be open-minded and see how you can use these practically in your improv. All right. So first guideline, and again, guideline, just remember that. The only rule, I'm putting rule in quotes again, just so we're very, very clear. The only rule that can't be broken, I'm going to be reading this real quick, is the rule of agreement. Now, what happens, let's say there's two people on stage, and an improviser, you know, you're on there and your partner's on there, and your partner says to you, "Oh my God, that's an awesome car." And you say, "Oh no, that's not a car, that's a bike." What you've essentially done there is denied the reality of the scene. And that makes you look extremely selfish and kind of like an asshole. Not kind of, it does make you look like an asshole, because improv is a team game, and whatever your partner says, you have to go with it. And whatever you say, your partner has to go with it. And why this is so damaging is not only did you deny the reality of the scene, you fundamentally said, "No, I'm not going to be playing this game with you right now. Whatever we're doing, I'm not doing it." And you have to realize that is a lot. And this has happened to me. When people have said no to me in scenes, I feel completely like helpless. You know, I feel like I'm just being put out there to be scrutinized and to be crushed by the audience or by my teammates, and it feels incredibly embarrassing, because what that projects to the audience is that I'm not we're not confident in this scene together. We don't know what we're doing, even though we really don't know what we're doing, but we don't know what we're doing without confidence. To have confidence in not knowing what you're doing, something completely different. So that's something that's very, very damaging to scenes, denying the reality. And again, when you deny the reality, you block people off. You are no longer open to any more possibilities, you know? And that's what improv is, essentially, being open to possibilities, to what's going to be happening in the moment on stage. You know, you don't know what's going to happen, but you need to be as open as possible to explore those possibilities with other people. And when you're closed, you can't do anything. Nothing happens when you're closed. You just look like a sitting duck. And that's not a very conducive environment to your improv. So keep that in mind. So I want to explore the other side of this. You can't agree in disagreements, okay? You can have agreements and disagreements. For example, let's say you're on stage with your scene partner and you're a married couple, and your scene partner says, "I want a divorce." You know, the first thing that we would say in our minds is, "No, I don't want a divorce. I mean, like, I want to stay with you," right? And you would want to disagree with that, maybe, hopefully, if you're a newbie, right? Because you're thinking in terms of rules, and if you say yes to a divorce, you feel like the scene's over, right? But there's ways in which you can move around that. So, for example, say your scene partner says, you know, "I want a divorce," and then you can say, "Okay, you know, yeah, I want a divorce too, as long as we still live together." Another example is, let's say you're with your scene partner, and you're teaching your scene partner how to, you know, kill someone, and you say, you know, "Johnny, you have to learn how to use this gun." And your scene partner says, "I don't want to learn how to use guns. I hate guns." So then you can say, "Okay, I understand. We'll work with knives first, and we'll move our way up to guns. How about that?" So you see how there's a fundamental disagreement in the scene, but I'm still saying yes to what's happening, right? Like, I'm understanding how the other person feels. Yes, I understand you want a divorce, but why don't we just keep living together? It's fun, you know? I like that. I like you. I like being around you. So, you know, again, with the gun situation, you could say you're agreeing to the concept of the scene. Like, "Okay, I understand how you feel about guns. Okay, let's just take it slow. Let's take our time and work our way up. All right, we'll use knives first. Move on, you know, to to, butcher knives. Then eventually at some point we'll get to guns. So you're not denying, you're accepting with added information. And that's very important for us to understand. So remember, you can disagree in agreement, okay? It's a very powerful and funny concept. And audiences love that stuff, because when you accept and you add information to something that the other person doesn't want, it's hilarious. It's great. And you really get to see what the character is that you're playing. Okay, so that was one guideline. Another guideline is action is the fuel. It's like the lifeline of scenes, okay? I read in a book, I forget the name of the book at the moment, but there was a formula. It was nice people plus nice choices equals boring scenes, okay? We don't want to see we don't want to see people being nice. Improv is amazing in that you could be whoever you want to be. You could do whatever you want to do, safely, obviously, and explore those actions. That's what's so great about improv. You can choose to to do scenes that you could never do in real life, or in a play. And that's what's so great about it. So the practical way to counter this is to take risks. Take huge risks right off the bat, okay? Because what happens when you take huge risks, especially when they're when they make sense in the scene and in the context of the scene, oh my God, you will feel so energized by the choices that you make, and it will push you forward into exploring more possibilities in more scenes, and in different scenes, especially if you're doing long form. So remember that action, fuel scenes. It is the lifeline of scenes. So make sure you take huge risks when you're doing improv, because where else are you going to take it in life, But also remember, you want to stagnate your risks. You want to make sure you're doing them in intervals that make sense to the situation. Don't just come out and do something where you're in space with astronauts and robots while the scene's about a couple being in love in a park. So some really good examples, or a good way to know that you're stuck. Actually, before I give you guys some examples, a good way to know you're stuck is if you're feeling blocked. If there's a block in your improv, or you feel like you're not getting anywhere, and you'll know when this is happening. That's a clear indication that you're probably not taking huge risks, and you're not putting more effort into your scenes. Okay, so just keep that in mind. There's some really good examples, and I wrote them down. I'm going to read them for you guys that I came up with. Example is, I'm going to marry you today. Okay, and then someone off stage can say, cut to the marriage scene. I'm going to get a puppy today, Mom. Boom, cut to the store where you get a puppy. Okay, let's see that transaction take place. Another one is, today I'm going to get in the biggest car accident of my life. Okay, and then someone off stage one of your scene partners can yell, all right, cut to the hospital scene post, or cut during. Let's see the car crash happen in slow-mo. Okay. So this is really keen also on your scene partners and on your teammates. They need to recognize when an action sentence, something like I just said, I'm going to marry someone today, right? And they can say, cut to when he meets his wife or her husband, or now let's cut to the marriage scene, and you have a huge marriage proposal or a huge marriage ceremony, right? Or you cut to where they first meet, and then you cut to the marriage proposal. And it can be 5 minutes after they meet. You can do those time lapses. You can explore. So those are really fun things, and they hype up the energy, and they keep you energized to keep you going for the rest of the show. And also you can do this in practice too. You don't just have to do this in a show. So the key point here is act on what you're saying. Don't just say stuff. Saying stuff and building information and characters is great, right? That's fundamental in improv. But personally, I want to be in the moment. I want to do stuff. I want to be in the action. I want to be the person yelling, cut to this, cut to that, or I want to be the person, marrying that person or getting in that car accident or doing something in slow-mo, because those things are fun. Those really hype up the energy and make you feel alive in your choices. And that's only going to keep getting better during that specific show, because then you're going to have that confidence to take even more risks in the next scene or in the next show, whatever that might be. Great. Okay, so the next guideline is strong, bold statements are the best support you can give your teammate and to your scene partners. All right, what do I mean by this? Because there's a lot of talking in improv, and we don't usually get to the truth of it. So I have some examples that I want to share with you guys. Here are examples of strong, bold statements, and I've written them down. I love you. I want you to be in my life. I hate your parents. I want your love. I want us to be friends. I want you to be my friend. I want to marry you. I want our puppy to be named Skittles. Okay? So those are some examples I came up with, and those are examples of strong, bold statements. These are like mini gifts that you give to your scene partner. They are so beautiful, right? They are so, so beautiful, because if you have a really good scene partner, he or she can be like, perfect. I know exactly what I'm gonna do. If your scene partner says, or if you say to your scene partner, I love you, they could say anything, right? They could say anything and have it be funny. They'd be like, yeah, well, I actually hate you, okay? Or, good, you love me? Did you take out the trash today? Or, I don't love you anymore. And then we can, whatever path that you guys choose to take is a beautiful path. You can explore that scene in that context. And, taking it back to the previous guideline, you can see action on those strong, bold statements. The key here is your scene partner, because you can be giving gifts all day. You can be saying strong, bold statements all day. The key here is to respond honestly and to respond like you would in real life, okay? Because what you don't want to be doing is manipulating your words somehow to get your partner to do something so that you could do something later down the scene. That's not improv. You're actually pre-proving if you're doing that. You can't do that. You need to be in the moment. You need to be responding honestly to how you see fit, to how you see your life, or how you see this character. So the key here is the response, okay? To have it be as authentic and real as possible. And that generates so much good, fun stuff to work on. Because when you're being genuine and you're doing it from a genuine place in your heart, you can say, you could do anything and it could be funny, like after the statement has been said, the honest statement. So keep that in mind. Some really good stuff here. And finally, before I get to like a few other key points, is the yes and. And this is practically taught in every single improv school. And there's been books written about it, and there's videos about it, and it's what the mainstream improv community knows about the most. Or when you ask someone who has no idea about improv, they'll say yes and, right? That's all you need to do. And that's kind of true. That's kind of true. But in my perspective and in the research and the experiences that I've had, yes and is actually very important. but it goes deeper than what we think. And I'll explain to you. It's not only just saying yes and adding information, right? That's good. What you're fundamentally doing at the core of your scenes when you do a yes and is you're accepting the other person. You're accepting yourself. You're accepting the reality of the scene. You're accepting your scene partners and your teammates, and you're saying, yes, I'm open. I'm open to whatever happens right now in this moment. And there's nothing that you can do that's not going to make me open, right? There's nothing you can say or do that I'm not going to say yes to, okay? That I'm not going to take and give you back tenfold. And that's so beautiful. It's such a deep concept to understand. And it's even better when you actually do it. You're being open, you're being vulnerable. And it's great, it's beautiful. People in the audience love to see that stuff, because you and your team, you guys are putting it out there, for show. And you're saying, hey, I don't know what's going to happen right now, but whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And that's just the way it is. And I'm open to it. I'm open to whatever. If we fail, great. If we succeed, great. If we do okay, great. If we do all right, I'm happy with that. I'm good with that. So yes and is a lot deeper. It's a lot deeper than what they teach in a lot of these classes and in some of these books. So take that with you. Take these guidelines with you. A few key points that I want to kind of mention that I think are also important that are just like, good reminders. I'm going to be reading this for you guys real quick. It's not about the, quote, wet cardboard, okay? It's about the meaning of our relationship. Don't make the suggestion the scene if you take suggestions at all. Some troops don't even take suggestions. This is very important, you have to understand, because the best thing you can do is take the suggestion and make it about you and your partner, you and your scene partners, you and your team, or about yourself. You know what I mean? So the wet cardboard, let's say someone said wet cardboard and you took that as a suggestion. The scene could be about how, there's mold in the house and in the attic, and how all your stuff is wet and messed up because you haven't been paying attention to your house because you've been too focused on this divorce that you're having, or you're too focused on the fun that you're having in your other relationships, or you ignoring your house could be you ignoring you and your problems. So everything is a reflection. Think about it like that. Everything is a reflection back on you and your scene partners, okay? And it's a great way to look at this because it doesn't keep you stuck. You could say something about the wet cardboard, right? Or the bowling pin, whatever it is. And it could be a reflection on you. It could be a reflection on your relationships with other people. Like, for example, bowling pin. Why do you have bowling pins in your house, Dave? The other person can say something like, I don't know, Dan. Ever just wanted a bowl in a house before? Like, what's your problem? And then your scene partner could say, isn't that a little weird? Like, bowling in your house? What's going on? Is everything okay? And then he could say, I don't know, I just feel like I'm just being pushed around all the time, and I don't know what to do anymore. So now you see, like, why is he bowling? Oh, he feels powerless. Why does he feel powerless? Maybe he just broke up with his girlfriend. Maybe he just got cheated on. Maybe he got fired from a job. So there's very intricate ways that you can work the scene and the suggestion together. I give you a very obvious one, right? We try not to make it, for advanced improvisers, we try to weave it into the story very seamlessly so that it doesn't even appear like that was even part of the plan. So I give you something really obvious. But as you practice, you could do those obvious things, but as you practice, you can get better and better and better at integrating and weaving the suggestion in with the story so that it becomes seamless. Cool. So remember that. The suggestion is always about you. It's always about the relationship, what's happening. And you can diverge. You can have it be about the suggestion for a second and then, have it be about the relationship. So I'm not saying it always has to be, about the relationship. You can deviate and come back. That's what the really advanced improvisers do. So that you kind of take a break of the relationship and you look at the suggestion. So it's a balance. It's a balancing act. Another one that I'm going to read for you guys is, this is really great. I like this because this means when you've reached advancedness or mastery, if you will. After a while, you start completely forgetting about the rules, quote, rules and guidelines. And what ends up happening is things become second nature, right? And you're able to freeform everything you've learned. And what happens is there are no mistakes suddenly. Like there's nothing that you and your scene partners could do that is a mistake because you'll always find a way to work around it and to mold it in such a way where it's not even like a rule. It's not even like a mistake. There's no possible way that it could be a mistake. The mistakes, quote unquote, are woven into the fabric of the scene. And that's what's so great. That's what's so cool. That you could get to that point and have it be no mistakes whatsoever. There's nothing that you can do that is a mistake because I have enough trust in our team and in myself that we're going to get through it. So that's really cool. Asking questions is okay. Okay? It's okay. As long as you provide supporting ideas and context to the question. I'm going to give you some quick examples of what not to do, right? So, what are you doing? Who are you? Where am I? Those are just like questions. Just basic questions. That doesn't really give your scene partner anything to work off of, Again, the really advanced improvisers, they can weave these mistakes into their fabric of the scene, So just be aware of that because I said, technically there are no improv rules. Okay, so just know that. Examples of what to do if you're just starting off. Give context. Say, your hair is so done up. Did my husband do that for you? You know what I mean? So that opens up so many avenues. Like you could explore wait, why is her husband doing another girl's hair or another guy's hair? Where was this husband when they were doing this? When the husband was doing, that person's hair. There's so many avenues you can explore with that one question. So things like that, things that you could give context to. And a few more key points. Know when you need to change. Know when the character needs to change in the scene. You'll know when you feel like the scene's dragging out. And it's pretty obvious. You'll feel it. The audience will feel it. You'll see that nothing's going on or nothing's happening. And what I mean by change is, let's go back to the divorce thing because that's easy to see. What I mean by change is, one person wants to divorce, the other person wants to keep living together, right? Eventually, the person who wants that thing to happen needs to get his or her way. Otherwise, you could just keep going and having this back and forth, and you can keep agreeing to disagree, and it's going to get you nowhere, right? But eventually, we want to see that action take place. We want to see the divorce take place. And that's funny too. Someone can yell, "Cut to the divorce lawyer," and you can have like a huge battle over property and stuff. And you could say all these different things. about, you know, the divorce that's happening. And the real key here, there's two key points, and then I'm gonna get off here, is you need to practice as much as possible so that you can get these rules to become second nature, or you can get these guidelines to become second nature in you. And again, you know, we have to start from somewhere. You know, we have to be able to say, okay, you know, here are the rules, go learn them, have them be second nature, and now when they're second nature, don't even worry about them. Like, you're good. Because you're with so much practice, eventually improv is gonna start doing you. You're not gonna have to do anything. The whole goal here is to practice and practice and practice and practice and practice so that you can get into a state of flow where you're not thinking about anything anymore. You're just being, you're just doing, you're just reacting honestly and truthfully, and you're just being in the moment every single time. And that's such a beautiful and rewarding feeling, but it takes years of practice to get to that point. It really does. And even people who are at that point fall back down, you know, and they have to keep practicing to maintain that level, because it's such a discipline to get to that point, because you need to put in work and effort to get to that point. You know, to do truly amazing improv, you need to work at it and you need to practice. So those are some guidelines and some key insights to kind of help you with your rules of improv, and to kind of make you see the bigger picture, right, of long-term improv versus your short-term improv goals. All right. So great. You know, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will be back next week with more.